The haunted rice fields. Rangapur was a small village, and the people who lived there had always been content, although none of them could boast of being rich. The trouble was that the land surrounding the village on 3 sides was quite barren and utterly useless for growing crops. But on the northern side there was good fertile land, which had always yielded fine crops of paddy, sugarcane, and pulses. But in recent years, this rich fertile land was no longer being cultivated, and the villagers eyed it with terror, for there was no doubt that it was haunted. Why, it was only last year that one of the villagers had been found dead in one of the paddy fields, and another who crossed that land during the night was discovered in a ditch, quite demented, gibbering about ghosts. A young fellow named Subodh had left the village years ago to study law at Benares. He now returned to the village a learned man, well versed in the ways of the world. But on his return, he was dismayed to find the village looking dilapidated, and its people sitting around in the depths of dejection. He sought out the elders of the village and asked them why everyone was looking poor and half-starved, and why the fields were not being cultivated. "My friend," said one old man with a gloomy shake of his head, "we are no longer living, but slowly dying. Our lands no longer belong to us. They are possessed by the ghosts and ghouls." Subodh could not believe his ears. "Nonsense," he replied. "You are being foolish, for there are no such things as ghosts and ghouls." At this, all the elders tried to speak at once of the weird lights that had been seen at night, the howling and screaming of the ghosts that made people hide under their beds and children whimper with fear. Subodh did not know what to think, but it was obvious that the villagers were really scared, so he decided to try and find out the truth, for it certainly was not ghosts. That night, Subodh walked through the deserted village, and it was plain that, though it was not late, everyone remained behind locked doors after darkness fell. As Subodh approached the old paddy fields, there was a large banyan tree alongside the path, and Subodh was amazed to see something white swaying among the branches. As he went closer to see what it was, the air was filled with screeching of inhuman laughter and ghastly howling that even made Subodh shiver. Returning home, Subodh spent hours thinking about what he had seen and heard. Then he thought of a plan to outwit these ghosts. The next day, Subodh told the villagers he was going to a neighboring village on business, and everyone begged him not to travel at night as it was far too dangerous. Late in the afternoon, Subodh set off, and when the village was well out of sight, he left the road, and making his way across the fields, he came to the banyan tree that appeared to be the home of ghosts the night before. Looking around, Subodh saw there were quite a number of footprints and the ashes of several fires. It was certainly not a meeting place for ghosts, thought Subodh as he climbed the tree and found himself a fairly comfortable perch where he would be well hidden from anyone below. After what seemed endless hours of waiting, Subodh was sure he could hear voices below, and looking down through the branches, he could see figures with a dimmed light moving around. One of the figures tied a white cloth to a long bamboo pole and began waving it to and fro, whilst the others set up an unearthly screeching and howling, enough to wake the dead. After a while, other figures joined the ones below, and then several of them, with a good deal of effort, moved a large boulder near the foot of the tree. When the boulder was moved, there was a pit underneath, into which the figures emptied sacks and bags they had with them. Later, after a good deal of whispering, the boulder was pushed back into its original position, and the figures melted into the night. After waiting to be sure that all the ghosts had gone, Subodh climbed down from his cramped perch and made his way back to the village, happy that he could solve the problems of the villagers. The next morning, everyone was surprised to see Subodh still in the village. "We thought you had gone away on business," said one. "The only business I went on was to spend most of the night in the fields to meet your ghosts," replied Subodh with a smile. "But did you see any ghosts?" Everyone seemed to ask the same question. "Yes, I saw the ghosts," said Subodh. "And now I will take you to where they live." At first, the villagers would not budge, but after a little persuasion, they armed themselves with sticks and any implement that was handy, and at a distance, followed Subodh to the banyan tree. "This is where your ghosts live," said Subodh, beckoning the men to gather round. "Look at all these ghostly footprints." And now the strongest of you, set to and move that boulder. After considerable pushing and puffing, the boulder was moved, and in the pit below, everyone gasped at the hoard of gold and silver ornaments, jewelry, and other valuables. Now you can see, explained Subodh. Your ghosts were a band of robbers who frightened you away from the land so that they could have a safe hiding place for their loot. Now we will go and explain everything to the king. Subodh and the elders of the village went to the king and told him the story of the ghosts. The king sent his guards to collect the robbers' treasure and announced that each man of the village was to be rewarded with sufficient gold to feed and clothe his family until such time as their land was again cultivated and harvested. Needless to say, the robbers were soon caught and hanged as a lesson to other ghosts. And the village regained its former prosperity, although to this day, the villagers still refer to the fields as the haunted rice fields. Courage and truth can banish fear and deceit.